Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Mordy and Glory video. Today guys, we are going to be taking a look at how you can build upon your Cadia stands box set and the best units to expand your Imperial Guard collection. One thing to mention is I have recently done a video on the best way to build your Cadia stands box set to get the most out of those models. If you haven't seen that video, don't worry, you don't need to see it in order for this one to make sense, but you may find it helpful and I will put a link to that video at the end of this one. But without further ado, let's crack on with today's video and take a look at how we can best expand the ranks of our Imperial Guard army. The first thing I want to do is go through some golden rules for collecting the Imperial Guard. These are lessons that are going to put you in good stead no matter what edition it may be or what army type you're looking to collect. And I want to put these rules out there now so that when I go on to explain what kits I would recommend, it all makes a little bit more sense. There's a bit of context to it. So the first of Mordian's Golden Guard rules is never neglect your infantry. This is something that a lot of veteran players struggle with when they come over to the Guard. They're used to playing something like Space Marines, where realistically, your troop choices and your infantry are a little bit of a tax. You're only really looking at taking some small 5-man intercessor squads to sit on some objectives. With the Guard, it is the total opposite. In the Guard, it's really important to have a very solid core of infantry because they're going to be doing much more than just sitting on some backfield objectives. You're going to find that your Guardsmen will be involved in all of the key actions that you do throughout the game. Be that storming forward into no man's land to take the fight to the enemy or capture some midfield objectives, or simply just providing a meat shield to stop the enemy assault waves coming in and crashing into your more viable units. Like I said, your Guardsmen are going to be involved in every kind of action that you do on the tabletop. You need bodies, you need boots on the ground. I cannot stress that enough. Every single Guard player that I have seen struggle to get to grips with the faction has come down to the fact that they've got very excited by the shiny tanks, but they've not embraced or looked after their infantry core. The next of Mordian's golden rules is that tanks do the killing. Your infantry are involved in all manner of actions, but their damage output is relatively low in comparison to the tanks of the Imperial Guard. Now don't get me wrong, you throw enough infantry waves at anything and it will get ground down, but for when you need that moment to just hit something hard, hit it once and make it sit down, that's where the tanks come in. So never neglect your tank core either. And last but certainly not least, all of your lists should be seasoned with a little bit of artillery. You don't want to go over the top because artillery isn't actually where the main damage output is. It is surprising, but trust me, it isn't actually as damage dealing as the tanks, but your artillery performs a very, very important function. Your artillery tends to be very long range and it also tends to be able to fire out of line of sight, which means you don't even need to be able to see your opponent in order to be able to do damage with them with your artillery. That's very important because it means that your opponent can't just hide behind some walls and avoid all of your damage. He can't just sit a single unit on his backfield objective and hope to hold it whilst the rest of his army pushes forward and tries to take the fight to you. By having just a little bit of artillery, it allows you to disrupt your opponent's plans and really mess with those units that he wished and hoped were safe out of line of sight. So those are the golden rules, and if this is the only thing you take away from today's video, then make sure that you drill those into your head. Make sure they're always on the back of your mind when you're making decisions both off and on the battlefield. But now we've got that context, let's take a look at what you get in the Cadia Stance box set and how to expand on it. So you have got 25 infantry to play with. You've got 20 Cadian shock troops and you've got 5 from the command squad. You've also got a sentinel and some artillery. This is actually a great starting place for any Guard army. The 25 warm bodies is a great way to start off an infantry corps, and the fact that it comes with some artillery means that we're already covering 2 of our golden rules. The lone sentinel, whilst not ideal, is still okay. It's a good start to having a bit of an armored corps, especially if you've built it as an armored sentinel. So now that we know we've got a good starting place, no wasted models, what should be the first thing that we look at next? Well, what you're going to want to get around to first is your infantry. You're going to need at least 40 more bodies, at least 4 more squads. Now, it doesn't really matter what squads these are. They could be Death Corps of Krieg, they could be more shock troops, maybe you want some Catachans, or maybe you just want some good old-fashioned regular infantry. The main thing is getting those bodies into the list, getting those boots onto the ground. around. By having about 60 land infantry, you're going to have just enough to be able to not only hold some backfield objectives, but also start thinking about being able to push out into the middle. And also you'll have enough guys to screen your main firepower assets. Whilst it may sound very harsh, if an infantry squad has to die to an enemy assault unit to make sure that the tank can then pound them into dust the next turn, that's probably a worthy trade-off for you. Once you've got those infantry, you're going to need some more officers to be able to boss them around. Now, what you're going to want is another command squad box. But the interesting thing is you're probably not actually going to build it as a command squad. You can easily use the command squad box to build the other officers in your army that you're going to need to support your infantry. Things like a Castellan and a Commissar. You may find that you have 1 or 2 models left over from the command squad that you're not quite sure what to do. Maybe you've built yourself an extra officer and a couple of commissars and you're left with 2 veteran bodies you're not quite sure what to do with. Don't worry about this at all. Use them to maybe build a couple of other specialists. Either a couple more special weapon gunners, perhaps some flamer bits that were left over from your Cadian shock troops can be used to make a couple of flame troopers. Or if you're really confident with kit bashing, you might be able to build some of the advisors for your command squad from those spare 2 guardsmen. I think that you could easily convert a Master Vox guy into some kind of massive ordnance, and there's probably some play there for something like a Astropath or Officer of the Fleet as well. So after you've picked up those extra 40 infantry and that command squad that you've turned into all the various different characters, you should have a really solid core of infantry and all the officers and advisors that you're going to need for a while. So the next area you're going to want to focus on is fleshing out that armored core. Now, a great place to start could be to pick up a couple more sentinels. One lone armored sentinel or scout sentinel stomping around the battlefield isn't really much of a threat, and it's kind of just a random unit. But 3 sentinels, now we're talking. You see, by having 3 sentinel models in your collection, you now open up the opportunity to take things like brigades, which can really fit in a lot of units in a single detachment. And on the battlefield, having a single unit of 3 armor sentinels actually brings quite a decent chunk of firepower to your list. They're also pretty durable, which means you could have your sentinels walking forward and your infantry marching up behind them. That means if any assault units start coming in, they're going to have to go through the sentinels before they get to the squishy guardsmen. So not only are they providing you with firepower, but they're also providing you with army-wide durability. Now, don't worry if you've gone down the scout sentinel route, because 3 scout sentinels is a real headache for some armies to deal with. They can easily get onto mid-board objectives straight off the bat and start messing with people's ability to do their secondaries or primary points. They're also great at denying people their ability to teleport in from reserve, or even use things like relics to shunt across the board in one go. Scout sentinels are fantastic at just messing with people's plans, and you don't really need more than 3 of them to achieve that. So either way you look at it, either you're going to be taking 3 scout sentinels to just do some little hijinks, or you're going to be taking 3 armor sentinels and providing a bit of serious firepower to your list. So far, we've just been talking about units that you're familiar with. More command squads, more infantry, more sentinels. But now let's take a look at some units that you've not yet explored. Things like heavy armor and transports. Now, the quintessential heavy armored battle tank of the Imperial Guard is the Leman Russ, and I highly recommend that you pick up at least 2 of these for your army. To be honest, I'd say you can't go wrong with getting 3 Leman Russes. This is going to be your first experience with true heavy firepower and serious durability. You might think your Scout Sentinel looks pretty beefy, and that is a tough cookie. He looks like wet paper in comparison to a Leman Russ. Leman Russes have got better save, better toughness, more wounds, and way more firepower than a Sentinel. They are a fantastic unit, and they will cause serious problems for your opponent. I have played many games where my opponent's been forced to focus on my Sentinels and on my infantry because they've been running disruption, and then all the while, my Leman Russes have just been pounding them. By the time they've dealt with all those distractions, they turn their guns onto the Leman Russes, they've not got enough firepower left to crack through my heavy armor. There are many reasons why the Leman Russ is such a good unit. So many, in fact, that it probably deserves its own dedicated video. And guess what? That's exactly what I'm going to be doing. Later on this week, I will be revealing a video all about the Leman Russ, doing a full unit review on it. At this point, just take me at face value. The Leman Russ is fantastic. It will bring to your army the first serious firepower and the first serious durability. The next area that you need to expand into that we've not talked about yet is transports. Dedicated transports are very important for a guard army. Your regular infantry are pretty squishy, and unless you want to be bringing hundreds of them, you're going to need to keep them safe. Now, some of these guys you'll be able to keep safe behind line of sight blocking terrain or in some cover, but sometimes you just need to be able to get somewhere safely, and that's where dedicated transports come in. Now, the guard has a whole host of different dedicated transports to draw upon. You've got the Chimera, you've got the Taurox Prime, you've got the regular Taurox, you've even got the Valkyrie. Many options to pick one, but my recommended one is the Chimera. It has never been bad. It has always been a good choice. It is pretty tough. Not as tough as a Leman Russ, but pretty tough. It's got a decent amount of firepower, and most importantly, it can not only carry a full 10-man squad, but it can also carry a couple of officers as well, because it can transport a total of 12 infantry. I know some people think that the Taurox looks pretty good in the new codex, and I won't deny it. It is pretty cheap and it is pretty fast, but the problem I find with the Taurox is the fact that it can only transport 10 guys. Makes it a little bit more limited. Also, it is significantly less durable than a Chimera, and at the end of the day, I want to get there, but I want to get there alive, so that's why I prefer the Chimera over the Taurox. In addition to providing protection to the infantry, the Chimera is going to provide speed. Infantry in the new book is much slower than it was in the old 8th edition codex. They used to be able to sprint all over the place. Now they can get a little bit faster, but by and large, they're not as fast as your vehicles. But your dedicated transports are actually pretty speedy, so they'll get your infantry over to where they need to be quickly and also safely. Now, the last area you're going to want to expand into is your artillery. You need a little bit more than the 2 field guns that came with the Cadia Stands box set. However, you don't need too much more. Like I said, you want to season your list with artillery. You don't want to overdo it. So what I would recommend is thinking about picking up either an extra set of those field ordnance batteries, just to give you quite a bit of decent long range indirect firepower with those bombast cannons, or maybe go down a slightly cheaper route and look at some mortar heavy weapon squads. Mortar heavy weapon squads look kind of cheap and flimsy and they don't do that much damage, but the thing is they are very cheap, which means that you can season them into your list and not take away points from more important units like your Leman Russes and your infantry. However, if you're not after something that's cheap and cheerful, you may want to consider either the Basilisk or the Manticore. Now, in the new codex, these units are very, very similar, so it's kind of just personal preference. Do you like that classic artillery cannon look, or do you like the idea of having a multiple rocket launcher? However, if you're a newer player, I would recommend staying away from the following 2 units, the Wyvern and the Death Strike missile. The Wyvern just isn't very good, sadly. It has very similar guns to a small team of mortars, but it costs a lot more. So doesn't really bring much to the table that you can't get for a lot cheaper with your heavy weapon squads. Now, the Death Strike missile is a fantastic unit in the new codex, certainly one that will genuinely strike fear into your enemy. It is a tactical battlefield nuke. The problem is that it is quite complicated to use. So what I would say is, if you're a newer player, get a few games under your belt and then maybe start thinking about some of those more extravagant and exotic units like the Death Strike. If you're a veteran player though, I would seriously consider taking a look at those Death Strike missiles. They're kind of crazy and you're going to have to build your list around them, but if you've got the experience, you might be able to make them work. Okay, so those are the units and areas that I recommend expanding into, but what are the best box sets for doing that? Straight off the bat, I would recommend some Cadia Stands box sets. Now you might be saying, but Morning Glory, the GW pre-orders ended. How do we get more of them? Well, actually, Element Games is still selling Cadia Stands box sets that you can buy right now. Not only are they about 30 quid cheaper than getting it from Games Workshop, but also by using the affiliate link down in the description below, you'll be supporting the channel. And if you use my referral code TIM3921, you will get double store credit for future purchases from Element Games, which is pretty handy if you're going to be continuing to expand on your guard army. Now, I know some people will be thinking, but I'm going to end up with more codexes and data cards than I need. Don't worry about that at all. They are special edition. You will have no problem flogging those on eBay or in your local gaming group. Another box set that I can recommend is the Guard Start Collecting set. It comes with a Leman Russ, 10 infantry, a single heavy weapon team, and a commissar. The great thing about the Start Collecting set is that if you buy 2 or 3 of them, you really do start getting all of the extra bits that you need. You'll have 3 Leman Russes, you'll have 30 more bodies in your army, and those commissar models can easily be converted from regular commissars into other officers as well. Also, you'll get 3 of those heavy weapon teams, which means you'll be able to form a heavy weapon squad as well. However, a couple of things to remember. The infantry you do get in the start collecting set is the older infantry models, not the new ones like you get in the Cadia Stands box set, and that is also true for the Commissar as well. But if you're not too bothered about the aesthetics and you're just trying to get the best bang for your buck, you can't really go wrong with the start collecting guard set. One thing to be aware of is that the start collecting box set is very likely to go out of sale when the guard combat patrol box set comes along. The good thing is that we do know what is going to be in the guard combat patrol box set. It will be the same models as the Cadia Stands box, except you won't get the codex or the data cards. So the combat patrol that we're going to get is also a great box. It's just not one that is available right now. Other model kits that I can recommend is the Leman Russ. Now, be aware if you're a newer player, the Leman Russ has 2 separate model kits. You have the Leman Russ Battle Tank kit and the Leman Russ Demolisher Tank kit, and they come with different turret weapons. So the Leman Russ Battle Tank kit comes with the Exterminator Autocannon, the regular Battle Cannon, the Vanquisher Cannon, and the Nova Cannon. The Leman Russ Demolisher kit comes with the Demolisher Cannon, the Executioner Plasma Cannon, and the Punisher Cannon. Both kits come with the exact same sponson and hull weapons. The only difference is those turret weapons on top. Now, both kits are very, very good, and you're probably going to want to pick up at least one of each in your army. Just to be aware, if you have already bought some start collecting Imperial Guard kits, then you will get the Leman Russ Battle Tank in there, but you won't get the Demolisher. So if you're thinking about how to expand your army, what you could do is get a couple of the start collecting kits and then get a couple of the Demolisher Cannon kits. And the last of the Guard kits that I can recommend, of course, is the Chimera. That doesn't have any complicated messing around like the Leman Russ. There's one kit and it comes with all of the options you'll ever need. It comes with a multi-laser turret, it comes with a heavy bolter turret, a heavy flamer turret, and it comes with a hull heavy bolter or hull heavy flamer as well. It even comes with some extra weapon choices, like you can stick a little pintle mounted heavy stubber and a little pintle mounted storm bolter, hunter killer missiles. It comes with all sorts of extra goodies. The Chimera kit is one of my favorites. However, I have one more box to recommend, but it's not a guard one. It's a Gene Stealer Cult one. You see, Gene Stealers have a box called Brood Brothers that you can buy. Now, realistically, this is just 10 of the old infantry models with a different Gene Stealer Cult upgrade sprue chucked in it. But it also comes with a heavy weapon team as well, which means you're actually getting 12 models in that box. It's actually really good, and it's been quite a well-kept secret in the Guard community for a while that most people don't bother buying the regular infantry boxes. Most people buy the Brood Brother ones because it genuinely is the best bang for your buck. It's actually cheaper than buying the current Cadian Guard infantry kit. It costs about £3 or £4 less and comes with more men and a heavy weapon team. It's kind of a no-brainer. The only downside is it doesn't come with all of the special weapons. It just comes with flamers and grenade launchers. But if you're just looking for a cheap way to add bodies to your army and get some heavy weapons at the same time, you genuinely can't go wrong with that Brood Brother box. Now, I kind of touched upon this with the where you can get more Cadia Stands box sets bit earlier in the video, but a great way that you can support the channel and get all of the kits that I've talked about today for a big discount is by using the Mordian Glory affiliate links down in the description below. I've got 3 affiliate links now, 2 for in the UK and 1 for in the US. In the UK, we've got Element Games and we've got Firestorm Games, and in the US, we've got Noble Knight Games. By using those links down in the description below, not only will you save up to 25% on any of the kits that you buy, but you'll also be supporting the channel. So if you are thinking about expanding your guard collection, I would be very, very grateful if you could consider using those affiliate links. But that's all we've got time for today. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Are there any units that you would recommend for newer guard players to pick up? Are there any golden rules of your own that you want to mention? Get them down in the comment section below. If you've enjoyed today's video, then make sure you smash that like button like it's a big titty Eldar our girlfriend. And if you want to make sure you never miss an episode, please click on the subscribe button. Now, if you've really enjoyed today's video or you found it particularly helpful, then please consider becoming a channel member or Patreon supporter. It is thanks to the channel members and the patrons that I'm able to do this full time now. And that means I can put extra effort into every single video. One of the big perks of becoming a channel member or Patreon supporter is you gain access to the Mordi and Glory Discord. That is a Discord with over 600 active members in its community. There's always someone to talk about, be it about memes, painting, hobbying, or tactics. It's honestly a great resource for both newer players and a great community for veteran players. So if it sounds like a whole heap of fun, then please consider becoming a channel member or Patreon supporter. And I just want to take a moment to say a big thank you to all of the latest channel members and Patreon supporters. So a massive thank you to Matthew Muto, Nolan Beck, Hanshan of Legend, Mark Shrub, Kempo Ninja, Jamie Hall, Maxfield Knuckles, John Miller, Jay, Roland, Nigel, Ben Baxter, Richard Holman, Fabrizio, Dub XB, Commissar Mailvich, Void Dragon, Paxton Fisher, Matthew James, Jan, Mikhail, and Moshalad. Thank you guys for doing your part. I also want to take a moment and do a shout out for my latest Patreon supporters as well. So a big thank you to James Harrison, Jesse Thompson, Noah Eddy, Tristan D. Graham, 32mm Matt, John Miller, Hootie, Liam Bud 2947, Zhang Jerry, and Carnivore Grappler. Thank you guys for your ongoing Patreon support. Now, last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreon supporters. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty when it comes to supporting the channel. So a massive thank you to Bonbon Vert, Navy Veteran, Phil French, Ross Miller, Tequal, Alex Dengal, John Stubbs, Nicholas Walsh, Swordfish Trombone, Diesel Fox, Tom Sutton, and of course, August Varney. Thank you guys for listening to today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. And of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.